Good afternoon, and thank you, Ms. Benedict, for the invite and for that warm welcome. It's indeed a pleasure to be here. It's an honor to be before the Baton Rouge Press Club Board, and this is one of my first speaking engagements. It seems like I've been speaking everywhere around the state, and so finally speaking in Baton Rouge. But before I get into my remarks, first of all, I would like to bring greetings from, on behalf of Dr. Ray Belton, the president of the Southern University and A&M College System, and the Southern community. It's indeed an honor to be here. I always try to open up. They've been telling me since I've been making my rounds I don't really introduce myself, but that was a great introduction. So I can skip some of that, but I will say, when I say I'm from Mobile, Alabama, I'm actually from a little place called Theodore. As one of the guys told me, he said, Theodore, you take the E in, and yeah. And I said, oh, I know this person really knew where I was from. And I actually had a chance to go there this weekend. I was telling my colleague, actually we were talking when I was en route about the Mardi Gras, because I put on Facebook, I said, New Orleans may have perfected it, but Mardi Gras started in Mobile in the continental United States. And a couple of people argued with me until they started Googling it. So it was great to go back and see my family. It's a big difference between a 15 to 16-hour drive from West Virginia as opposed to a 3-hour drive to go see family. But as stated, I am a graduate of a HBCU, land grant, in fact, Alabama A&M University, where I did a horticulture degree. And Alabama A&M is also part of the SWAC, which is the same conference that Southern belongs to. And I went on to do a master's and PhD at University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign in plant sciences, and then on to Virginia Tech, where I had the pleasure of working in genetic engineering of soybeans. After that, by fortunate luck, I was able to get a job as an assistant professor at West Virginia State, then college. And one unique thing about West Virginia State, it's also a land grant institution. So every institution I've ever been involved with had a land grant status, which is very unique. I was there for 21 years, and I served in several capacities. I reported to 3 presidents, and had an opportunity to hold a lot of national offices, including the one that I'm in now, which is the executive director of the Policy Board of Directors of Association of Public and Land Grant Universities. And this body develops the budget and legislative priorities for all 107 land grant institutions. So we spend quite a bit of time in DC developing strategies on how we're going to prioritize our asks and what mechanism we're going to use to get to where we want to get to. I tell you all this about my background and also about my 21 years because the first question that I was asked, why would you leave a place where you're a tenured professor and you spent 21 years and appeared to have had a successful career? And the answer to that was there was only 2 universities that I would leave West Virginia, and that was Alabama A&M and Southern University, because of the fact A&M is, of course, my alma mater, but Southern University, because as a land grant, coming from a historically black land grant, we all looked up to Southern University and their academic programs, their research programs, their outreach programs. So that really tweaked my interest, and I'm really thankful that I made that decision. I've been here since September, so I'm fairly new, but I did make that ultimate commitment. I did purchase a home. So I have a home here, and I have one in West Virginia, and I have one in Alabama. So actually, Mom occupies the one in Alabama, so it's really her home, so as she reminds me. So I want to just tell you a little bit about what's going on at Southern University, and just like any new chancellor or new dean, you want to lay out, what you're looking or your vision for the 2 entities. I will say to you, it's very, very unique to have a chancellor-dean title. You're either chancellor or you're dean. So that's very unique, but I like that because it keeps you closer to the academic piece, but also as a chancellor, you're still able to do a lot of the administrative activities you've grown used to. But as the Ag Center chancellor, I have pretty much oversight over research and extension / outreach activities. Also with the chancellor position, I also direct research in that I'm the experiment station director, and so therefore I have a grasp of molding and developing and working with faculty to develop what I call applied research activities that benefit the communities that we serve. It took me a while to understand extension, I will say, because as a 100% research person, you want to do research sometimes for the sake of doing research. But when you get into a land grant school, the vehicle for getting that research out to the community is called extension. And so I had to understand that there has to be some connectedness and not just necessarily silos. And so if you go to many land grant institutions, those of you who are familiar with them, sometimes you have those, we have a tripartite mission. And so you have those separations of authority. You may have a vice president for research, a vice president for extension, and then a dean of college of agriculture who may not even talk to each other. And so you're doing your own thing, but is it for the betterment of the citizens and communities that you serve? And in most cases, it's not. But that doesn't mean they're successful in their own individual right. The fortunate thing with this position is that as a dean, I still get a chance to work with students, faculty, the budgetary issue, the legislative issue, and then as chancellor, I get a chance to work with the administrative aspect, the legislative aspect, the big budget for the Ag Center and the various locations. We have extension in 30 different, physically located in 30 different parishes out of, I think, the 64. I had to get used to parishes because I'm a county man, and so I've been struggling with that, and I slip up every now and then, but I'm quickly reminded that we have parishes here. Under the Ag Center, we have programs that are within our outreach and extension in the normal areas of youth, family, nutrition education, community and economic development, workforce development, ag and natural resources. And then as far as our research areas, we're dealing with environmental remediation, urban forestry research. We are the only HBCU with a PhD in urban forestry in the nation. And so we're really proud of that. We look at some efficiencies, some toxicology research. So we have a number of strong research and extension programs. And as far as our academics, we have 3 departments. We have the agricultural sciences, or we refer to as ag sciences. We have also family and consumer sciences, and then we have urban forestry and natural resources. And so that is kind of our state right now. A couple of things that will be coming up, I wanted to make sure, and it's on our website, and that will be our 77th annual livestock show. Again, one of the great things about Southern that attracted me to Southern, they have programs that no other institution that carries their name of HBCU has. And this has been going on for 77 years, and Lisa was telling me that we have to gear up for our 80th. So we have 3 years to prepare. So we're enjoying that, and I will tell you that this is going to be my first livestock show, and some people started showing me some of the attire that they wear in recent years. Now, I have not made the decision of whether I'll be in full gear, but I may try to do what is a transition. A little bit of me and a little bit of that, so I don't know if I'm ready for the 100% transition, but we'll see. But I'm looking forward to that. And that's going to be February 27th through 29th at our research station. I'm looking forward to that. But I wanted to talk to you about where we're heading now. When I came in, I talked to President Belton and I talked to the board. I had a vision of where I thought we should go and wanted that to coincide with the overall strategic plan. and understanding that at Southern, the strategic plan is not something that you put your coffee cup on or whatever your beverage of choice is. That it's something that's actually active and living, and you're actually assessing it on an annual basis. And I felt comfortable with what I saw on there, whether it was student success, whether it was philanthropy. I was really content with that. So as it relates to student support, we're doing a couple of things different. For the first time in 30 years, we're hiring a recruiter just for our college, as well as a retention officer. Those individuals will work with local high schools as well as two-year colleges. We've already have 3 meetings set up with a couple of 2 years on New Orleans, and then also our main campus, because we're one of 5 campuses under the Southern system, but SUSLA is also interested in doing some things with us in Shreveport. So we're going to look at trying to develop some new relationships. Professional development is, when I talk to students during my interview, they wanted to know why they weren't able to go on various trips and get the various trainings that they thought that there was need for them to go on beyond Southern University and be successful and professional in whatever they endeavor. So we are providing those types of not only experiences, but hands-on experiential learning opportunities. We also, this is very important, and you have to be very careful about this portion. That is assessing current academic offerings. And the term that the young people call it is that, you know, some of the names that you guys use are kind of old school. You need to think about something that's kind of sexy. I said, sexy? I said, I never, you know, associated sexy with academic offerings. But as I explained this to one of my colleagues in Florida, he said, oh yes, that's the term they use now. He said, you got to get on board, Orlando. And he actually taught me in undergrad, so he's ahead of me. But so we're looking at that. We're also looking at trying to seek resources for the upgrade facilities and equipment. That's always imperative, and it's always a challenge. I'm not going to sit here and say I have the answer to that, but I do know sitting back and just asking may not get you there. You're going to have to be aggressive and intentional in trying to develop those resources. And speaking of academic offerings, one of the things that I took head on was that we have 3 departments, and we are repurposing all 3 departments. In doing so, we want to try to, we have a whole bunch, we have degrees that are called 2-star in Louisiana. What we're doing right now is we want to elevate those different academic terms and terminologies to 4 to 5 year academic offerings, so that when our young people graduate from Southern, the College of Agriculture, they will be very competitive in the workforce. Now, I will tell you, whenever you start messing around with faculty terminology and departments, you have to be very careful, and you have to be sensitive to degrees that have been around for 20, 25 years or however long. But we have to convey to them that if we don't do something about repurposing or changing how we conduct business, those students will no longer be coming to us. They will be coming to someone that will be doing it. And I know my friend Bill Richardson across the way, I know he is doing the same thing now, because he came to see me my second week at Southern University. And I actually will have an opportunity. I have a 1 o'clock with him today, so I'm looking forward to talking to him later on. Also, extension. As I told you, we're physically in 30 parishes. My goal is that we have a statewide mission. And again, I found out the hard way in West Virginia that research and academics, they're kind of okay, but extension can be political, because you're talking about geographical locations and locales. You're talking about co-location. You're talking about a number of factors. And so we are looking at trying to, under the strategic goals, trying to increase our footprint, but do it so in a way that's now non-duplicative. And if it is duplicative, it needs to be a necessary beyond what LSU Extension can do or beyond what our institution can do. So that's why we're having those open communications between me and my counterpart at LSU. It's imperative that we be frank, and Dr. Richardson definitely is a straightforward individual, so I don't have to worry about that. And so we're looking at that. As it relates to research, we're moving in a couple of new areas, and some you may have heard of, but the one that is when you have a lot of chemical companies and environmental issues, environmental remediation has to be a research topic that has to be near and dear, and it's just not an agricultural one. It becomes a chemical one. It becomes a biological one. It becomes one that can be dealt with via engineering. We're also looking at integrating multidisciplinary research with other colleges, such as engineering, looking at farming efficiencies via drones. Knowing when there is a drought, knowing when there is disease, you need a pathologist, or fertility issue is going on, or whatever the irrigation problem is. The one that we kind of shy away from is the socioeconomic research. Sometimes we just want to do STEM. But when you're in certain states and you know you have certain issues going on, you have to bring in the socioeconomic aspects of it. And so we are reaching out to other colleges and departments to try to merge and do something that will be of benefit to the people we serve. And of course, the hemp and cannabis research. And these two are extremely hot. The cannabis is further along, the medical marijuana. We had some challenges in that area, but I think our relationship with Alira Healthcare is off to a pretty decent start. I think we've had some successes to be proud of, and I'm happy with where we're going. In fact, we had a ribbon cutting ceremony, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, and we became the first HBCU to launch a new CBD line in the nation. And so that is very important to us, but we want to get beyond that. We want to even look at some other products developed right here in Louisiana. And so I'm really happy with that relationship, and you may have some questions about that later, but the research that we have not gone to the point of research because we're just in the processing mode. We're trying to get that part efficient and look for efficiency. As a matter of fact, some of the things that I'm going to be talking to Bill about will be some of the challenges we have, and if they are in a position of sharing, we want to know how they are addressing them, because we're having the same problems, we're having the same issues. So I wanted to see if we can have that open dialogue. The other one that that has jumped on us right now is hemp. The scary part of hemp is that we have individuals who want to abandon what they've been doing for 40 or 50 years and go jumping right into hemp. So in the 2008 Farm Bill, other states decided that they were going to license different growers, different entities, to see what are the best soil conditions, fertilization conditions, and what have you for growing hemp. We did not jump on that bus. We did not jump. So we are growing a plant that we're not familiar with. And we have to become familiar with that plant before we can provide the appropriate advice to our farmers, especially some of our small farmers, which we have a mission mandate to serve. So one of our paths forward in that is that we are hiring this month, at least proposing to our board, 2 new PhD physicians, one of which will have an extension appointment. And we will also look to hire a couple more individuals on our extension side. And so we're hoping that these individuals will provide, much needed information to these individuals who want to grow hemp, because industrial is one thing, but when you want to grow it for CBD content, that's totally different, because you have to go through the same, the same federal regs it takes to produce an aspirin. And if you're ever going through that, I've watched this process, and it is very stringent, very difficult, and it has to be a clean crop. You can't use fertilizers, you can't use pesticides. It's pretty much organic in a controlled environment. And in the field, it's definitely not a controlled environment. I mean, whatever happens, it can happen out there. So we're looking forward to that. Now, in all of these things that I talked to you about, cannot happen on its own without resources. That's the people and the dollars. I think sometimes we get used to low-hanging fruit. That is that money that comes all the time, and we just ask for more of it and hoping that someone's going to give us more of it. But that's not necessarily the case, and it's just, I used to hate it. I ended up loving this president. His name was the President Eikenberry at Illinois, and he used to say, you know, young man, and I had a decent relationship with him, except for this quote that he often said. He said, you know, we're in the business of higher education. He said, but I must tell you, higher education has become a business. And I didn't understand that until I got out and became an administrator, and understand that the business model is what's keeping a lot of these universities open. Because if you don't have control of finances, what's coming in and what's going out the door, door is the right term to use, because it will be closed, because a lot of the challenges that we're seeing going on in universities closing throughout the country at a clip higher in the history of higher education. 9 times out of 10 is financial, and maybe even 9.9 times out of 10. So when I say diverse portfolio, we can no longer just whatever we get as a land grant from the feds, whatever we get from the state of Louisiana, we have to go out and work with corporate partners. We have to go work with foundations. We have to work with the other land grant universities and submit what I would say are better proposals, because you have 2 institutions collaborating and for one cause. And I think that as we start to do that, I don't want to wean ourselves off of our the annual appropriations, annual allocations, but I just want us to think outside the box. And some of the new faculty that is coming in, I think you have to make sure that you convey to them when they interview, in the job description, that you will have the responsibility of raising dollars for your research, raising dollars to support your students. It's no longer, you can't assume that that's what they're going to do. You're going to have to put it in writing and articulate to them that this is an expectation, especially if you're in a tenure track position, because so much of tenure has been associated with teaching and research, not as much as extension or outreach. But the fundraising part is going to be critical, and that's one of the things that I'm interested in. As I stated earlier, I will be meeting with my counterpart, and we will be talking about everything from co-location, from joint positions, to sharing of space, and all those things that we can do beyond other people getting involved with it. So there are some easy things that we can do to I think solidify a relationship. I think that's necessary. I just been in too many states where you have 2 land grant institutions and we're not communicating, and we're just walking past or talking past one another. And the only losers in that is the people that we collectively serve, including our core stakeholders, which are our students, and also our citizens. So it is my hope that the relationship, and I've known him for 20 years, by the way. A lot of people didn't know that, but I've known him for 20 years, so that's a little bit easier. But I'm looking forward to continuing to work with faculty and staff, the board, and President Belton to develop quality programs and continue to acclimate and adjust as necessary to meet the demands of whether that's workforce or whether that's research or scientific needs. And I'm excited to be a member of the Southern family, and I want to also have my Southern friends, Southern colleagues to please stand and hold your hand to be recognized because they came out. Lisa. So we have a nice crowd here, and with that, I'll conclude my remarks. Thank you. So at this time, I'll take any questions.
Hi, Holly Dutchman with the Business Report. I know you mentioned that y'all aren't to the point of conducting research right now with the medical marijuana program, that y'all are focusing on trying to get those processes efficient. When do you expect those processes to become efficient and start research?
So I think right now we found the key to continue with staggered process of producing the product that is cannabis, medicinal marijuana, and I just think we're right now we're getting ready to harvest that first crop. The research piece, my hope is that it will take place starting this summer, and the research that we'll be looking at is something similar to what the state mandate was for hemp, and that is for us to look for new cultivars and new varieties that will have different concentrations of CBD, different concentrations of THC or what have you. And for that, we will be looking at bringing on some additional plant scientists. And we are in the process, 2 will be hired in the month of March, and then we will be looking to add another individual.
When is the livestock show?
The livestock show is February 27th through 29th. And we will make sure we get some information to you guys to make sure, because it's going to be my first, and so I'm excited about it. So right after Mardi Gras, though, yeah. Tell you, yeah.
You know, being an agriculture college, you've got so many programs with agriculture and livestock. If this gets so profitable, you think you'll bypass or will quit some of the other programs that y'all been doing for years? If this is so profitable, or it'll take over?
No, I think, to be quite candid, if this is indeed profitable, I see that enhancing some of the other programs. What I mean by that is that the fact of revenue that's generated, we put back in the program or support other aspects of the university. So I will not, especially some of the research we're doing on meat production, you know, all this. These are necessary. You know, this population, this world population is growing at a rate that us agriculturalists, we have some concern on if we're going to be able to feed all these people around the world, and then we're having all these environmental problems, and we're having less and less farmable land, and so I those other ones will not go away. Maybe some activities, but not the core research aspect of it or the outreach.
I thought I was coming out to hear maybe a chapter in the book, and I think what I got was an entire encyclopedia of questions I would ask. When I think of Louisiana, I think of stepping off into the marsh in my hip boot, wondering if a little bit of swamp is going to hold me up, or whether it's going to go down and have water coming in the top of my hip boot. When I think of West Virginia, I think of coal, rocks, solid ground. Could you maybe, for the people of Louisiana, differentiate or give us some sort of vision of what you see as the difference between the two, so we have a little better feeling of where you're coming from, what you see?
So first of all, the biggest difference is that West Virginia is one of the smaller agricultural producing states. As a matter of fact, I think we get 80 to 85% of our produce externally from the state. And a lot of it has to do with the terrain. And the other thing is that they didn't really care about farming when you had coal, what we thought was an infinite abundance. But we found through mechanization of coal, that is now becoming a problem. And so we're having some problems on looking at what is that new and emerging area. And now it's natural gas, but we don't have the lines to necessarily transport it to the identified locations. And so the agricultural production had just started to get back hot. It wasn't in the 50s and 60s, but we started hiring more agronomists and more horticulturalists, more entomologists. We're getting the bees back, so the apple production is starting to come back. With Louisiana, agriculture is of the utmost importance. The problem is that outside of the big, huge farms for corporations, we're not doing enough research in farming efficiencies. You didn't have the issue in West Virginia because the farming was not at a level in which you needed a drone to fly over to see, what's needed in irrigation or what have you. But Louisiana, to me, I'm a horticulturalist. This is a great place to be. You grow everything from, I was in viticulture, I was in enology, and we made a little wine, and some other things. It's everything here from agronomic crops to what have you. We just don't have enough people that's getting out and actually educating farmers on being more diversified. Like I said earlier, some people have been doing the same thing for 40 or 50 years. That's why when the hemp came up, they just wanted to abandon what they were doing. I said, no, that's a bad money decision right there. You cannot do that. You need to continue to do what you do, but we need to wait till we get some numbers on what is needed to actually, and here's the key, the ROI. Just like anything in life, it becomes saturated. When the market becomes saturated, what you made in 2020 versus 2022 is going to be different. It's going to be less because all the farmers are looking to do it. And after a while, you're going to have cross-state transportation of it. And so the big states like Kentucky, who does it better than anybody right now, they'll be sending it over to West Virginia, they'll be sending it to Ohio, and they'll be sending it over to Indiana. That's just a fact. But the opportunities here are so much as far as agriculture. And the problem is some of the erosion and the water level increase, and those are some of my environmental concerns. And it's real. I have faculty talking to me about it all the time, wanting to develop research projects on it, even though we're limited in resources. But that's not an area of mine, but I am concerned with it.
What's the size of the business prize for medical marijuana?
Excuse me?
What's the size of the business prize financially for Louisiana medical marijuana?
I won't even try to attempt to answer that because I'm not even 100% certain that I understand the question. But I'm not 100% certain, so I won't even try to answer that. And plus, medical marijuana is new relatively, so I wouldn't know that answer. Yeah.
A lot of states have gone to recreational marijuana, and just give me your thoughts in general. If the state does go that way with Louisiana sometime in the future, how would that impact you in any way, or how would it impact you?
You're saying?
Repeat that question, please. We didn't hear it.
Go ahead.
Recreational.
Recreational.
If
Yeah.
the state does go that way and follow suit with other states, would that impact the program in any way?
Thank you very much. It just.
Put it on the floor.
Yeah. It just depends on. It just depends on how the state legislature sets it up. Whether it still goes through those same vehicles and they're limited to the number of people who grow it, and then the two entities that are able to give licenses, will they still be the only one, or will it be broader in scope and other people will be able to be as LSU Ag Center and Southern Ag Center is those individuals who are able to grow it and work with third partners and what have you. I will tell you, in general, my colleague at Colorado State says it hadn't affected CSU. Because of they wrote it in a way in which a lot of the money goes back to higher ed in Colorado. So they're actually still benefiting from that. So they're getting money directly as the land-grant university, and then a certain part of the legislation actually gives that money back to colleges and universities and K through 12 in the state. So that's why I say it's in all how they design it. Yes. Go ahead.
Can you touch a little bit on the Bayou program, the Beginning Agricultural Youth Program?
Right.
Supposedly it's getting a lot of national acclaim.
Right.
So you work with USDA.
Right. Yeah, we actually have received enough money. Wrap it up.
Repeat the question.
Okay, it's asking about our Bayou program, which is our beginners outreach program in agriculture at Southern University. And it is quite popular. I did not know about it until I arrived there. But it's a summer program that offers opportunities to young people in ag, and it's one of our top recruiting activities as it relates to the College of Agriculture, Family and Consumer Sciences. Our capacity is probably not as large as we would like it, so we need better support. And when I say more support, more faculty and staff, because I see it can get to a large number, but can we actually take on that many students? And I think it's 60 to 70% of the students end up coming to Southern, some number like that. And there's also a Bayou 2 that we will be looking at bringing that back. I heard it was not active in the last year or so, but that's something we'll look at. But my main focus is the Bayou program, but we're also looking at about 3 or 4 other summer STEAM program, and the STEAM stands for the agriculture instead of just the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So we're looking at some additional program. The beautiful thing is that the individuals who've given us supporting us in these endeavors, a number of them are Southern grads who've gone on to DC and do some great things. And so they're able to send monies to these, to these minority serving communities, or to try to increase minority participation in STEM. And so we're just fortunate enough that we were able to establish Bayou, and it's quite successful.
Tim, with the Advocate, it sounds like y'all don't really have a date yet in mind for when y'all are going to actually start the production of medical marijuana. It's more of like y'all have a date. Y'all are kind of looking at like research purposes, or what exactly?
No, we do have a date. We will be harvesting in the next week or so.
Okay.
Yeah. So no, the research is just another component of in anything we do, we have to think about all 3 mission areas. And one of the mission areas is not only just the production piece, but we need to also look at the research piece and the outreach piece. And the outreach is quite complicated in that we have to kind of demystify the myth of what we're growing this marijuana for. Because some people, when you hear of cannabis or marijuana in any frame, you just think about the recreational use or someone out there doing this or selling or what have you. No, this is for medicinal uses, many of which I did not know until I had an opportunity to actually talk with an owner of a dispensary and to look at what type of ailments these individuals have. Because being a Southern Baptist, we have our own mind about what we think cannabis is in medical marijuana. And so I had to be educated myself. I'm going to be honest with you, I did. I didn't know. But that's the part of the outreach effort. We have to make sure that individuals know that we're not just selling this, for recreational use. And it's called medical or medicinal marijuana or cannabis.
So when will the products made at Southern start hitting like the dispensaries? Any idea?
I don't want to answer,
Okay.
but it will be in the next 30 to 60 months. 30 to 60 weeks, excuse me.
30, 60 weeks, okay.
Yeah.
Wait,
30 to 60 days, excuse me, my bad. Yeah. 30 to 60 days. I have not gotten an update yet. We've been so busy with some other things going on that it's been a little slow in the process. But I think we're moving in the right direction, and I'm excited about it. It's just when you do something for the first time, and then you have these strict guidelines that are oversaw by so many different agencies, whether that's federal or state. Every step has to be approved, and so it's not a simple process, especially if it's something that is a medicine that you will be taking and putting in your body. So we want to make sure that we follow the necessary steps to produce a quality product.
With the release of the CBD product by Southern and Alera, who ultimately is going to receive the profits from sales for that product?
Well, we actually receive 5%. The question was who out of Alera and Southern, who was going to receive the profit? Of course, the company that's coming in and selling it, they of course will receive the lion's share. We signed a contract that we get a certain percentage of the sales of that. And then we have some other financial language that allows us to receive additional funds as well.
Okay. And what do y'all plan on doing with the money received from Alera?
I'll just give you an example. We're hiring 2 research positions with it to focus in plant sciences. So that's called putting money back into the program. And there are some other things that we'll do and other things that have been discussed. But the main thing is that in order to do a program like this, you have to have the human capital to continue in advancing that program. So with the lack of funding to just go and just start new positions, we have to rely on various new positions, new funding streams, and that's one of them to try to, but it's in the field, and we're not, we're pretty transparent and as it relates to the university endeavors of how we're going to use that money.
Let me re-ask my question. You're going to receive 5% of the profit. You have a budget. What are you projecting for your income?
We projecting, well, we know we get 1 million. We have $1 million a year. And because we have no clue and we never sold it in any stores, we don't have any idea of what we're going to get. Just as I've not seen any numbers. We have to see the numbers start. We've only been out there for 2 weeks selling the CBD. And so we won't know until we start working with the financial individuals as to where we are. And then once we have this first year down, where we're going to be. But you have to understand, we'll be scaling up after this year. So it will be a moving target.
So if y'all didn't have any projections, how did y'all know that this was going to be a profitable venture?
They did some projections, and this was with our first entity, because this is the second. Alera was not the first, right? And
But
while
they were the ones that did CBD.
right. So they had some projections, but we have to go back and look at those projections because they are projections. And there were some questions about the how real those projections would be because of everything was lagging, and also there were some other unforeseen issues that arose. So all of this is really new, and you know, I've been here since September, and I've yet to see the first product. So we're waiting on the first product, and we're waiting for the first of West Virginia to be placed in stores. So there are projections, but let's just say we're reassessing those projections.
Thank you. You see any potential for industrial hemp production?
Yes.
You mentioned diversification.
Yes, my thing with hemp is that it wouldn't. The issue is saturation of the market. I think that we're having a lot of people that want to grow it for the industrial piece, but there are also some people who want to grow it for the CBD aspect. But that I think that's a farther along than where we are, because it needs to be in a controlled environment. And grow them in the field, you just don't have any control of the environmental factors. But the industrial hemp is coming, and there's some things that LSU is doing right now as it relates to working out agreements with farmers, and where they'll be able to grow this hemp and then take it to a centralized place for processing. So there is going to be a lot of it going around. It's just working with those farmers. How quickly can we work with those farmers to help them, because they don't know. They will, you know, some of them are growing just blindly. They don't know the propagation piece, that they don't understand what year. Only thing they understand is this is the new thing that came out in the Farm Bill in 2018, and it's going to be profitable.